You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
The wheel is turning and you can't slow it down. You can't let go and you can't hold on. You can't go.
Hello and welcome back in to my Wheelhouse. Today is October 29th. I'm your host, Seamus McNamara, joined as always by Sloan Paiva and my Uncle Mike. What's going on, guys? Welcome back.
Week 1 in the books.
That's right. The NBA season is gotten going. We have every team played either 2 or 3 games, depending on what franchise you're rooting for. You're probably pretty excited. Not too many bad experiences so far, although obviously there are some. I'm sure that we'll get plenty to talk about. Patriots continue to roll. Their undefeated season stays alive after a win with the Browns continuing to disappoint.
Too many easy teams.
Some better games coming up.
Yep.
So
it seems like the narrative of they've only played bad teams is probably going to continue because there might only be bad teams.
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots make everybody look like a bad team anyway.
That's right.
So, but I think they're going to get a few good tests. The Texans look really good. Deshaun Watson's having an MVP year.
They just lost J.J. Watt, though.
Yeah, they just lost J.J. Well, it's a tough loss, but their offense is still rolling. Dallas still looks like a pretty formidable opponent most of the time, even though they lost to the
Indianapolis
Jets.
is a fun team.
Yep. And
Yeah, I don't think
before
we
we got
played
to the
them,
wheel,
though.
you got a chump you want to call out?
Oh, it's been so long I haven't got one on my list right now.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry, Shay.
No, it's okay.
I usually
You don't
have
need
one.
to every time. That's fine.
I got a few chumps. NBA referees. Stop
Why?
calling so many ticky-tack fouls.
There's a lot
There's a
of
lot of
fouls
fouls in
being
the
called.
first week.
That's how it goes.
They're
They
just
trying to
set the standards, I guess.
Yeah, the points of emphasis every single season always starts in the beginning of the year. Last year it was that the off-ball contact type of deal. This season it seems like it's a certain type of holding, and there's been some highlights on traveling. Not as much as I thought there was going to be after they really put clarity onto what the definition of what traveling and a gather was going to be. But
I think
we
the
saw
They're
players
not
got
calling the
that.
ones I would like them to call. They're not calling that double step back. I'm not seeing that call. You know, the gather and then another hop going back, and they're all using that step back.
Harden has been called a couple of times with the gather being up for debate, and I actually thought the ones that he got called for, there was one in transition where he took 3 steps, but after the first step was when he gathered. They called him for a travel. I thought it actually wasn't a travel, and then there was one of the step backs that he actually did get called on, and I thought both of those he actually didn't travel by the definition that they let out. So it's interesting how even after we do have a clarification, it seems like it is remaining up to the discretion of the referee what they see on the floor.
He's one of those guys where every time you make a call on him, he's going to look at you like, what?
I'm not so sure as the coach's challenge is a bad thing.
That was what I wanted to bring up as well. We saw it enacted in the.
I know I'm against the grain on this.
I'm
but
not
so sure.
I'm not against the concept, but I'm against the way they're rolling it out. It's just ugly.
I thought that I haven't seen it many times. We saw it last night in a more prevalent situation than in others, where it was the end of a game situation with Portland and with Dallas. In that game, it was a tight game. It was a 1-possession game, and Damian Lillard got called for a foul, in a case where he didn't foul, he stripped the ball. And he knew immediately, and he said, "Hey, throw the flag," even though it's not a flag being thrown. But Stotts trusted his team leader in Lillard and called the challenge, and they got rewarded. It was just interesting how it ended up being resulted, because after the foul was called, it turned into a loose ball because the ball was stripped, and it kind of bobbled out of bounds. So what they did to resolve it is just have a jump ball at half court. But because Portland didn't have any centers on the floor, Whiteside had fouled out. Zach Collins was just suffered a shoulder injury, which hopefully we don't think is going to be that serious. They had, I believe it was initially going to be Mario Hezonja, but it ended up being a different player. I forgot who jumped against Kristaps Porzingis. Yeah. But then it didn't even matter anyway because Kristaps tipped it away from any player that could have got it. It was very silly but interesting. I thought that what ended up happening was the correct resolution, even though it was clunky on how it got there.
I think it's they'll find that the best time to use that is end game, and you really should hold it. There's
Yeah,
no
I agree with
reason
you.
to use it early. Hang on to it. And I still like the way it resolves the charge block. And I think if that's all it was used for, is the charge block, I would be happy
Yeah, the
with
Celtics had a successful challenge when Grant Williams got bowled
Yeah,
over.
I forgot about that.
And I thought that was a
think it's
really
good
responsible use
application.
of it, especially considering that got one of their key players in foul trouble.
A couple of the games I watched, a couple of them I saw, the networks are doing a better job. What they're doing is they're breaking for a TV timeout immediately.
Yes.
As soon as it's called TV timeout,
that's something that I've
instead of
noticed as
hanging
well.
on
That
the
should
court.
be the case every
and
single
then
time.
And they'll say, we'll come back and let you know what happened.
Right. That's something I've noticed as well. I think the league, in terms of managing not only obviously what to do in situations where there's going to be a review, where there's going to be a challenge, I think that they're expediting the process in general. I think the referee's decision, they're obviously communicating more frequently and more directly with Secaucus, and I think that they're coming to a decision much quicker than they were in the past. I think that they're doing a good job. Obviously, the points of emphasis is annoying, and eventually that'll start weeding out and becoming less and less prevalent. But I thought in terms of really trying to weed out, oh my God, they're really extending this last 12 seconds of this game. This is taking hours and hours, even with new implementation of rules like the Coach's Challenge. I thought that they're doing a good job at trying to keep it as sped up as possible. They're clearly trying to get down to as close to that 2-hour game time limit to fit the TV schedules. I think they're doing a good job overall.
It still drags it a little bit.
Yeah,
but
Oh, God.
obviously.
The Boston Philly game was 2 hours and 40 minutes. You know?
Right.
what it's going to help with is going to help, keep the stars of the game from jabbering at the refs because they had their shot to look back and review. So they're not going to keep, harping on the referees the whole time.
That'd be good.
And, it's also going to.
Or you can just see
keep
the
the
light like
stars out of
Jason
foul
Tatum
trouble.
and not do it, you know?
And then we see people like Giannis where the reviews, show that he really did foul and then he gets into foul trouble.
That's true. Let's get to it. Plenty to talk about. All right, we're going to start off with some checking in on our rookies, our rookie buddies. We've had, depending on who your rookie is, I've had a couple games for both my guys, 2 each for Tyler Hero and Cameron Reddish. Both of them, surprisingly for one more than the other, started all of their available games. Tyler Hero's obviously been a little bit more productive, and to start off with him, I thought that he's filled the gap. I don't know necessarily whether he will continue to start once Jimmy Butler returns, but him and his backcourt teammate, fellow rookie Kendrick Nunn, both have been very productive in their time on the court. Tyler Hero's been playing about 34 minutes a game, and I think that he's continuing to show what he flashed in the preseason, that increased ability to be a playmaker in the pick and roll, not necessarily as a passer, but just in someone who's aware of their own space, aware of how much time they need to have a shot off, aware of how to snake his dribble in and out, use the screener. He's using players like Bam, Kelly Olynyk, even Derek Jones Jr., who's been a surprising revelation off the bench for this team. And his chemistry is really built up to a degree that I've been really excited about how at each stage he continues to translate, and it doesn't look like it's going to fall off. He's not doing anything completely irresponsible and not just repeatable. He's only averaging 12 points a game, but I think that depending on what happens, it's either going to be him or Nunn that returns to the bench once Butler comes back, because Justice Winslow has done fantastic as the starting point guard on this team. I think that regardless of what he does, whether he stays in the starting lineup or goes to the bench, I think that he's going to be an all NBA rookie first team
More athletic than
I
I
think
thought.
he looks great.
A very confident player.
Oh, that's his number one calling card.
I think when you watch him, you think he's on the verge of breaking out and having a game. A bunch of them go down. And
Yeah, and
I
the
was
only
impressed
thing
with him.
stopping him is the fact that Kendrick Nunn has broken out.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
between
Isn't
the
Kendrick Nunn more of a point guard than
But but they actually said
He's
that
more of a ball handler.
They
More of a
said
ball handler.
because the reporters were saying, oh, he's probably filling in for point guard
Right.
while Butler's out, and they're like, no, he's been filling in for both positions
because
but
they've been
he's
dragged
gonna-
off the bench.
And I love that. I
And he
think
got
he's still
25
the
But
Yeah,
they
like
said
the
he's
bench.
going to stay out there even when Butler gets back.
I think the Heat in general have been one of the
Nunn's
most
playing so
exciting
well, you
teams that
can't-
I've watched. I've really enjoyed them. I'll discuss them more.
Well, we
in
should
more
have talked
greater
about
detail.
him as a coach of the year. What's
Yeah,
his name?
he's
Spoelstra.
absolutely going to be a potential
Wow.
candidate. I think a candidate. I don't know. I mean,
He
there's
doesn't
going to
usually
be
have good things to say about our
no. I
Spoelstra.
mean, he's an improved
But-
coach every single year. But
Gets the
from-
most out of his
That's
players.
a lot of years. Is he the senior coach? No, Pop.
No,
Other than Pop.
From what I mean, in terms of being with one team, I
Yeah.
believe he's second after
Okay.
Pop.
Doc,
Hero, from what I'm hearing, it does sound like he's going to return to the bench and Nunn is going to remain the starter. I wish that he would remaining in that starting role because as I discussed with Kendrick Nunn, he's the more ball handler guy, and replacing the skills that are offered in terms of what Jimmy Butler is going to be bringing
Yeah.
to the table as another creator. I think that Tyler Hero plays much better off ball. He spaces the court much better for the Miami Heat, and I think that he should continue to get hopefully over 28 minutes a game. Obviously, his minutes will dip when Jimmy Butler comes back, but I hope he continues to get a high minute total.
I think they're just riding the hot hand with Kendrick Nunn. There's no way Nunn can keep on the torrid pace
No,
that
I mean,
he's
he's averaging
on.
20 a
But
game.
like while he's shooting this way, they have
looks
to keep
great.
him out there.
One of your rookies, how are they looking?
Hunter's playing
That's how I
vanilla
feel.
like we thought. You know, he's not that exciting of a player, but he gets a lot done. He's kind of along the lines of Grant Williams with the Celtics, where he's doing a lot of things out there, not really making any mistakes, and playing 25 minutes a game. 10 points a game in the first 2 games. The team's doing really well, and he seems to have a role that is pretty like a savvy veteran role almost out there. Somebody that's not making any turnovers, that's making the right play. They're trying to get him to be more aggressive, take it to the hole more. They're giving him a little more of a green light. I think he's going to settle in around 12, 14 points a game with steady play. I'm very disappointed with the Knicks and Iggy Brazdeikis because he has not played yet.
He hasn't played a minute.
He hasn't played.
And
I'm saying that guy. I still believe in him as a player, and I don't believe in Fizdale, so I'm not really believing in his judgment right now. If it was somebody else, I'd say, well, they're seeing what I don't see. But I think Brazdeikis is somebody that could be getting some minutes. They got too many guys. It's like the Celtics last year, where they got so many guys at that position that there's no way he gets minutes.
I'm happy that you're finally barking Fizdale up that tree because of his frustration and his inability to show consistency in terms of rotation. I understand that they're a young roster and you want to try different combinations of things to see who fits where, but he sticks with the wrong guys for too long of a time, and he doesn't give it a long enough leash for certain players that more warrant that type of a playing time. And I don't think that Brazdeikis should be playing heavy rotation minutes, but the fact that he hasn't seen any court time at all, I do think is an embarrassment. Back to DeAndre Hunter, I've liked a lot what I've seen from him. My opinion on him from draft day and from Virginia tournament days and earlier has steadily increased. I've been pretty tepid overall on him as a player and him as a player overall in terms of his ability to contribute to winning basketball and to be able to be offensive creator. He's always had defensive chops. He's continued to show those. He's not as versatile defensively as I was expecting. He can't guard
He's not defensively rebounding. He's not.
No, he's not.
And I don't know why he's not on the boards defensively.
He's very dependable against swings, but when it comes to switching to bigs or switching to guards, which I was expecting him to be able to do one or the other, he hasn't been as consistent. He's not as explosive or quick to handle ball handlers, or especially in the pick and roll, and he's obviously not as strong with his base to handle some bigger guys. But what I really have been impressed with is his ability to find his own offense. That was something that I didn't think he had developed as far as he obviously does. He's able to find his shot, create enough space for himself. He doesn't have enough creation ability to help other teammates out, but he's finding his shot in the 10 to 15 foot range where he's attacking closeouts if he catches it off an awesome pass from Trae Young. I think that he's in a perfect situation based off the teammates that he has to thrive and continue to grow what weaknesses he has in his game.
There's no shortage of confidence down there.
No.
Especially with the coach and with Vince Carter mentoring those
Vince,
players.
great mentor.
They're a big away.
Great overall team.
How about your rookies? How are they doing?
Oh, not so well. I feel even worse than Uncle Mike does because Jackson Hayes really isn't ready anyway. So he's not really playing much. But Nickeil Alexander-Walker has been playing. He's played about 12 to 15 minutes, which is kind of how we thought he'd start getting rolled out. But from day one, he goes up against Toronto, and he's got about 60 of his family and friends in the game, like at the game, watching him. And he was just shooting and shooting and shooting.
Yeah,
he had the green light apparently, because he shot about 8 shots in about 5 minutes, and he missed 7 of them. And it was kind of sad to watch because this kid had such a great preseason, such a great summer league, and I love that he stays confident. But it's also kind of disparaging to see him shooting 21% from 3 and then 11% from 2.
Yes.
So, but he's still making the most of his minutes. He's still getting in passing lanes. He's still very disruptive with, dribble drivers. He's still passing the ball well. So he's not all bad, but, shooting slumps don't last for people of this caliber, shooters.
I think overall, I've been encouraged from what I've seen from him. Obviously, the efficiency has not been there. The ball hasn't been falling in the hoop. But I love the aggressiveness. He in the minutes that he's played, I think he's had around a 30% usage rate, which is something you only see.
And his plus minus is still pretty good.
Yes, and
like
it's
7 plus minus.
That's a rate that you usually only see for the top 10 or 15 guys in the league. So when he's in the game, he's really imprinting himself in the game. His assist rate is like among league leaders already in the league, even though his numbers aren't that high. When his offense is flowing, when he's in the game, and he's always involved. And I like that he's able to continue to input his imprint on the game. I think that his teammates respect him. I think that he's going to continue to get minutes. I like that Gentry has been going deep into the rotation. He's playing around 10 to 12 guys every single night. And I think that
might as well at this point.
Eventually, depending on how he figures it out, something that could be really interesting that Fizdale could learn from Gentry is he'll stick with a guy if a guy's playing well. He'll by halftime, he'll have played 11 guys at least 4 minutes.
Find out who's
But
going.
then in the second half, he's only sticking with the guys that are playing well, that have it going, that are working well together. And more often than not, I found that Nickeil Alexander-Walker ends up getting those spot minutes in the second half as the backup guard because of how well he played, just in terms of an overall all-encompassing game in the beginning half. Even though his shooting obviously is not there yet.
People already respect him.
Yes.
Like, so they're already not playing off of him, thinking like, oh, this is going to continue, because like, this cold streak is not going to continue. Once he gets that stroke back, he's going to be a problem. He's a problem for other point guards because he's tall, and he's a problem for two guards because he's got pretty decent size.
Something that I've seen in these first couple games, Pelicans are one of the couple teams that have played 3 games. His release, in terms of comparison to what it was in the Summer League and what it was in Virginia Tech, he's shooting it much quicker. And that's something that you want from your perimeter players, from your guards. You want them to speed up the release. That's very important. Shot release time is actually one of the more underrated statistics and things to track with shooters in the NBA because of how important it is in terms of being able to get stuff up in front of a closeout and et cetera, et cetera. But I think he's not yet adjusted himself to attempting to speed up his release. I think that it's obviously something that it'd be desirable for him to practice, but maybe he should wane himself into that a little bit more.
I think he was overexcited about that Toronto game too.
Because of his
just
family.
so many people there, and he just really wanted to perform. And then he was kind of reeling. And we know what it's like when young stars try to shoot themselves out of a slump, and that's exactly what he was doing.
I'm finding that a fun team to watch. I'm enjoying that
Yeah,
team.
Yeah, no,
they
absolutely.
might not make the
The
playoffs.
pace
Like
is awesome.
Logan thinks
And,
they're going to make the playoffs. I don't think so.
Well, Zion obviously being out a stretch of game hurts.
Yeah.
Another thought on Tyler Hero that I forgot to say, similar to something that frustrated me in the bright spots of Jason Tatum in his rookie season, where he was shooting so well and he was a threat that was getting respected at the three-point line. When he was getting a kick-out pass from a drive, and this exact same thing is happening with Tyler Hero, instead of sidestepping on the threes, Tatum and now Hero always steps in and takes one dribble in. And that's something you learn to do as a younger player, something you learn to do at lower levels because it's an easier shot and you want to take that shot. But now at this level, the three is so much more valuable that the sidestep and to continue to be out past 22, 23 feet, that's something that his shooting ability he should be able to have. And he has that arsenal in terms of dribbling ability, in terms of creation, that he should be able to get that shot. I want him to try to wane those 16 to 20-ish foot shots out of his game, just like I was hoping that Tatum would, and we obviously saw him dip back in his second year. But I think Hero has a similar impact of that in terms of his motivation being, I'm going to find whatever my shot is instead of what's the right
You're
shot.
seeing a guy like Kawhi, who's all world right now. His in between game is awesome. I mean,
Well, I mean, it's tough to compare anyone to Kawhi and Durant and stuff like that. Those people are outliers. My second rookie buddy, Cameron Reddish, he's really struggled to the kin of your guys that are struggling. But unlike your guys with like Jackson Hayes and Brazdeikis, Reddish is actually playing a lot. He started both games. He's playing over 20 minutes a game. He hasn't made a three-pointer yet. He actually didn't make a shot at all in his first game. But outside of that, I thought he's played pretty well. He's rebounding well, and he's defending multiple positions well. He's taking the right shots, even though they're not falling. I think over 50% of his shot attempts have come from behind the three-point arc. And similar to how I think Hunter is doing a good job at taking advantage, playing off of the Trae Youngs, and even actually surprisingly people like Jabari Parker and sometimes John Collins as ball handlers at the top, or sometimes it's free throw extended. Reddish is making sure that his shot chart matches something that his play style and his talents should. It's just that the shots aren't falling yet. I thought that defensively has been the bright spot. I believe that they played the Magic and the Pistons in their first two games. I thought that he did a fantastic job guarding both Evan Fournier and Luke Kennard. He trailed both of them off ball, zigging through screens very, very well. That's a hard skill to catch up on early in your NBA career because that's not something that you're frequently doing at the college level. I thought that he looked good as a help defender with a couple strips. He holds his own ground when his opposing player is on the dribble drive. I've been excited about what I've seen from him, even though statistically he's been somewhat of a nightmare so far.
My second guy was Brandon Clark, not Jackson Hayes.
Okay.
I was thinking your dynasty league.
Oh, yes.
So yeah,
Clark's been good.
Nickeil Alexander-Walker was my first. Brandon Clark was my other. Clark has been performing pretty well. I mean, he's got a much higher role than those Pelicans guys,
Right.
Because he's getting lots of minutes. But he had one game against the Bulls. I mean, I know it's against the Bulls, but He tallied 14 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, couple steals.
No,
So he's
and
been playing
the
pretty
Bulls.
well.
The Bulls are a formidable front court in terms of what they have in terms of reputation with Thaddeus Young and Wendell Carter, a young, strong defensive big. I've really liked what I've seen from Brandon Clark. He hasn't played a ton of minutes, but in terms of frequency
Got
of
25 against the Bulls.
right, in terms of frequency of rotations that have the most positive impact, like in terms of net rating, out of like trios on like young teams. I'm very happy to see that the Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Brandon Clark leads most advanced statistics in terms of what the Memphis Grizzlies are putting out on the court. I think Memphis is going to continue to be an exciting team, and it's because of those 3 guys.
I guess he had a little back injury, but he shook it off.
I think he's good.
All right, good. Can't believe
Love
I
our
forgot
rookies. Love our rookie buddies. I was wrong. All right, let's discuss
Oh, let's go right away. I'm on.
some areas
I
where
was
we were
wrong on
completely
Ja.
You were
Oh my
wrong on
God.
Ja.
It looks like it.
Yes. Well,
Oh
Ja-
my
so
God.
John Morant, we can link it right back into the discussion that we were having with the excitement of the Memphis Grizzlies. We saw it on full display last night or yesterday afternoon against the Brooklyn Nets and Kyrie Irving. John Morant, before that game, he was
much.
struggling to find his way.
Yep.
I thought
Stumbling
that,
around.
he wasn't playing bad, but he was
What a
kind of
game.
just not there, and he was absent. But then come to this Brooklyn Nets game, the first 3 quarters, he was continuing to kind of be a steady point guard, making good decisions. His passing has been on display since minute 1 of the NBA season. But suddenly, as soon as that 4th quarter hit, he turned on a switch. His speedsters and his jetpacks were ignited, and he was getting to the rim at will. And there was nothing that rim protectors like DeAndre Jordan and Jared Allen could do. There was nothing that perimeter defenders, Karis LeVert, or anybody could do. He was getting to whatever spot he wanted, and if the D did collapse, he was finding cutters and divers with ease. I think he had 30 points and 9 rebounds. I think it was 9 assists. I believe he had 17 points in the 4th quarter. He had the game to send to overtime layup over an extended Jared Allen, and then he had a game block over Kyrie Irving, which was a magnificent display of defense. As long as he's focused, you can tell that he can have the chops defensively that a lot of people question whether or not he would be able to bring to the table. I'm really excited about him. I'm very sad because I traded him away in my dynasty this morning, but I think that he has a promising future, and he's going to continue to be an exciting player from start to finish.
Moving and shaking in this dynasty.
Oh,
league.
yeah, I'm
Lots
all
of
about
trades.
making moves.
That particular game, I just to talk about that game a little bit, and I'm seeing one of my biggest disappointments is Brooklyn and the Nets. You're seeing that team being really affected by Kyrie right now.
Oh, it's just Kyrie. It's a
It's
complete-
awful.
it's a complete
awful.
Kyrie
I mean,
team now.
You're seeing a player out there right now that is commanding the ball so damn much that the team is falling apart in front of him. He's taking on 5 guys at once and then coming back out and taking them on again while his team is coming down there, and it's reflected on that defensive effort. And Kyrie did not stop Ja Morant at all in that game.
No, he couldn't
And when he
defend
beat Kyrie, there was very little help. So what's going on in that team's head right now is coming straight from Kyrie.
And meanwhile, Kemba's been playing pretty good defense.
Kyrie, through the first couple games of the Brooklyn Nets, has the highest usage rate in the league. And what you could glean as an issue for the Brooklyn team is because that's such a distant framework from what their team's success was built on last year.
Exactly.
It's completely different. And now a lot of what's happening is what we saw from points where things went wrong with the Celtics season last year, is we see the other players reverting to, okay, Kyrie's not having his moment right now. I guess that means it's my moment. So people like Spencer Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert, instead of letting their offense come to them, they're resorting to heavy usage isolation play when Kyrie either isn't in the game or he defers to them. And that's not the flow of success that allowed the Nets to be a playoff team last year. I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue. I think that Kyrie, I think it's more likely that Brooklyn, because of its historical impact on Kyrie being from New Jersey, his dad's connection to Brooklyn, his obvious thought process that this is where he was meant to be. Obviously, we've seen him change his thought process and his mind in general on the drop of a pin, but I think that he has more of a connection and more of a reason to make this work than the others. So I don't have a problem if it's a distance away from what they were last year. If he's a high usage player and he's scoring 30 points a game, they'll still be a playoff team. It just might be something different, and it might not be as successful.
The message I'm getting from him is wait till next year and I got a freelance to do whatever I want this year, and it makes no difference because that big guy's sitting on the bench and he's coming in, he's on the sidelines.
that's what I
and
see
he's coming
too.
in next. But that's not good for the team.
No, I agree.
That's
but
not good for the team.
I'm just saying
that team should be coming forward from where it was last year. Atkinson is losing the same type of control that Stevens lost with Kyrie. That's
No,
what
I
I'm
agree.
saying.
I
agree
was wrong because one of my favorite guys, Pascal Siakam, I doubted could be a number one.
looks like
And
it.
now I'm looking at him and I'm saying, wow, he's an inside-outside borderline superstar in the making. And he's already hit more unassisted three-pointers than he did all of last season.
Really?
Yeah. No,
So whereas last year he was more of a spacing threat for for when Kawhi was on the floor, or he stepped up and drove to the lane when Kawhi wasn't on the floor, this year he can do it all. And he's got the full confidence of his teammates and coach, and he looks like a great leader, silent leader, but just really great guy to have as a teammate. And Toronto still looks as scary as
He's
they
got some
ever were.
Giannis in him.
Marc Gasol didn't play very well in that game against the Celtics, and I think that's what cost them because they should have won that game against the Celtics.
I think that they are 2-1. They've played the Bulls, the Pelicans, and obviously the Celtics, which was a great game that we'll get to maybe later.
Yes.
He's shooting incredibly efficient. He's shooting shots that last year, as you said, he didn't have in his arsenal. I think he's averaging right around 3 threes a game, which is crazy. He's averaging 30 points, 11 rebounds, close to 5 assists a game. He's everything for this Raptors team right now, and I think that it's showing that he can be that guy that you're saying he didn't necessarily show signs of having confidence in being previously.
Yep.
He's obviously their best player. Kyle Lowry is slotting in perfect as being that second guy, still being the vocal leader, that vocal leader of the locker room. Van Fleet is falling right in line as being a perfect young piece to align with Pascal Siakam. I'm really excited about him, and I think that his defensive upside hasn't been untapped to the degree that it was at points last year. He was in discussion for all NBA defensive teams, and he hasn't actually been that strong defensively yet this season.
He's rebounded.
And what he's done so far is just been a nuclear offensive option, and I'm just really, really excited for when he ties it all together and brings back that same defensive
That
intensity.
team's fun to watch, too.
He
He's
could
not
be,
just keeping them relevant, he's keeping them in contender status.
I'm enjoying watching that team just like this. Some teams I'm enjoying a lot more than I'm enjoying watching the Celtics, so truth, and they're one of them.
I was wrong with Brandon Ingram of the New Orleans Pelicans.
Looks like it.
Oh, one of my buddies.
I think that I was nervous about his fit with this team in terms of what their style was going to be, the quick up and down style where they're running through both Drew Holiday and Zion Williamson. And I do think that a lot of his success is coming because of the lack of role that Zion will have in this offense. But he's been great. The ability to find his own shot has been real easy. He gets to real close in the hoop, and then he's patient. He really takes his time. He uses that 7'4" wingspan and his length and his steady, just nice, smooth shot to get whatever he wants. He's averaging 27 and 9, similar to Pascal. He's showing shooting chops that last year he was completely inconsistent and throughout his entire career. I believe he's averaging over 3.3 threes a game, and he's having a great string of consistency in terms of his efficiency. He's shooting over 50, 40, and 90, and I think that this is really, really exciting. If he can tie everything together and be an efficient scorer and be a player who's scoring with ease on the right parts of the floor, I will be willing to bow my head and say I was wrong about Brandon Ingram being an inefficient guy who's taking the wrong shots and his motor isn't consistent enough.
He ties in
wish
with
I
who-
drafted him.
He ties in with who I think I was dead wrong on, and that's Luke Walton.
Luke Walton, wow.
My God. Maybe it's because it was
So you
Bill's
were
son.
you were high on Luke
I
Walton.
was so high on Luke Walton.
Okay, yeah.
I really thought Luke Walton was and now when you see what Lonzo and Ingram and Hart are doing at New
They look great.
Orleans,
They look great.
you're saying, man, there was something wrong with that Laker team that was beyond them, and it wasn't necessarily Ingram. I'm saying Ingram's he's in the flow of the game. He's found his spot in that flow of the game, and when you see what's going on with Sacramento,
Right.
all of a sudden it looks like Luke is a big problem, and I didn't see that at all. I thought he was going to be a real good coach. He's actually a downgrade from a guy that you considered a bad coach.
So far, I 100% agree with you, and it has been a surprise. Their pace has slowed down from what they were last year. Their offense is much more clunky, and they're not gunning how their personnel would warrant them to really run and gun the game. I think that De'Aaron Fox, we can link it to another one of my teams, maybe a topic later. He's been really disappointing, but more often than not, it's because of the role that he's being prescribed to play. And I'm nervous about this team, especially without Bagley, that they're going to fall back into too many bad habits, and they're going to lean on guys like Harrison Barnes in the wrong way. And I think that Luke Walton has plenty of time. Obviously, it's still very early to get the ship right, but I'm nervous about that.
I was wrong about doubting you when you said that the Mavericks were going to make the playoffs.
Yes.
Because the Mavericks look really good, and they would be undefeated if not for a late coach's challenge
That's right.
reversal
Yeah, we
against
talked
the Blazers. And Luka really looks like he could be an MVP of this league. And he's playing real well with Porzingis, and they look deep.
Yes.
I question them because they don't have a third go-to guy, a third de facto guy game in and game out. But it could be many people game in and game out because they're a very deep team.
I'm really excited about the
Fun
Dallas
to watch.
Mavericks. They fell under my area of feeling vindicated, which I guess we can just shift to now. Luka is averaging 29, 10, and 7. Porzingis is averaging around 23 and 10. Both of these guys have fit together very well in a different way than I was expecting. I was expecting them to feed off one another perfectly. And what I've actually found is that fit hasn't been perfect, but it's been good enough. And what's made up for where they haven't been perfectly aligned is how the others have fit around them. And I think that Luka is playing off his teammates very, very well. DeLon Wright started slow, but in the most recent game, he played a lot more strong defensively. I think that this team has enough answers in every area and every aspect of the game that they can mix and match, especially under the tutelage of a strong head coach and Rick Carlisle, that they'll be able to have answers to questions that other teams that are going to be in this 6 to literally 13 seed just morass in the Western Conference, that I think they'll be in a team that's on the higher end of that spectrum. I'm really, really excited about Luka. I think he looks like a top 10 player in this league.
He's got himself in much better shape, and that makes a big difference
Porzingis
in the team.
is still not near his peak in terms of what he can be in this year alone. I think that he's still shaking off rust. Defensively, he's looked very, very strong as a help side rim protector, but other than that, he's been pretty iffy. And I think that both of these guys have a lot of ground to make up in terms of getting on the same page with one another in areas where they're only showing flashes right now. It has been a little bit of my turn, your turn, and I think that Carlisle is doing a good job staggering them. Both of them succeed and thrive when it's just one of them on the floor, and they're doing okay when they're both on the floor together. I'm excited for when everything and all the
Well,
gears
they're
start
controlling Porzingis' minutes right now, too, so he's going to play more. I still think that team would be better, I think, if they got a point guard and put the point.
Yeah.
I think so.
It's not going to be DeLon
I'm saying
Wright.
Dragic, I'm saying Chris Paul. I don't know, but I
They
think
might make a move.
that's a step forward, I think.
Well, if they remain contenders, then they're going to make some moves.
I continue to agree with you that
It's a desirable
Dragic would be an
spot.
awesome fit for that team. And DeLon Wright has been okay. It's just that he offers good defensive upside. He just starts to get a little frustrating when Luka draws 3 defenders and he makes an incredible kick-out pass to DeLon Wright, and DeLon Wright has a mile and a half of space. You know he's not going to make that shot. Who are you feeling vindicated and feeling right on?
I think you owe Frank the Tank an apology.
Frank Kaminsky?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why?
Because that team is playing well, which I feel vindicated by, because I saw that in the preseason that they're playing well. And Frank the Tank has been really good. And he's hitting his threes. He's averaging 17 points a game or so. He's getting assists. He's getting rebounds. And that team in general is a joy.
Yes.
And when you look at it, you go down the list. Javon Carter's been tremendous. He's like a Marcus Smart type guy that's in there, but he's really making things. Tyler Johnson, all these names, I love them. Aaron Baines. I don't even miss DeAndre Ayton. And they're still playing without Ricky Rubio, and they still look
and
good.
Devin Booker hasn't had to do everything.
But he's looking really good. I think Booker's playing really well, and he's got
He's
a
answered
whole
the call
new.
for
He's
the
got a
role
whole
he's
new look
supposed
for
to
Devin
be
Booker.
making,
I think that Booker has looked the best he's ever looked in his career. I don't think
I do too.
And I don't think that it's about him in terms of
Even
his
defensively.
That's exactly what it is. I don't think it's necessarily in terms of his improved creation abilities in the pick and roll, because he still has that. I don't think it's in his ability to find a shot with no space, with 0.6 seconds left on the shot clock, because he still has that. It's about him giving a damn, for the lack of a more explicit word. This team cares. And that's something that we haven't seen in the past 8
such a
years.
great feel.
They have passion. They're trying really hard. And I think Monty Williams deserves a lot of credit for this, because
He brought it to the table.
when they do lag, and because they still do have moments where they're
But
a
there are
little
so
bit
many guys that can feed in for
Yeah,
energy.
no,
There's so
when-
many energy guys.
That's what I'm saying. When they do have moments here and there where they're still laissez-faire and they'll be a little bit too laid back. Monty snaps his fingers, calls a timeout. He'll bark at Devin Booker, and then when the game starts back up, Devin Booker's picking up people full court. He's never done that before.
No.
And it's
But he's feeling it too.
really exciting.
Yeah, that was low key the best coaching decision that was made in the
Oh my God,
offseason.
it's
you
magnificent.
wonder, after 3 games, it's an 82-game season, and the effort and the intensity that they're putting forward is so extreme right now.
Yes.
You wonder whether that can continue.
Well, I think that it will, because of one of the talking points that you're pointing out, is because of surprisingly, how much depth they have at each
Mikal
position.
Bridges look good.
I think
Saric look good.
Yeah, they have options.
Oubre's look good.
I think Oubre is one of their best players. I think Oubre has absolutely
He's
been
a lot of
incredible.
fun.
He's an incredible scorer, and he is putting the exact type of impact, especially in transition, on both ends of the floor. He's showing me signs of like Danny Green defensively in transition. Danny Green, one of the best transition defenders the game's ever seen. Oubre is in every passing lane. His wingspan is so vast, and he's everywhere he needs to be. I'm loving what I'm seeing.
Answer this one for me.
Yes.
I don't know why the Celtics had to trade Aaron Baines and give away Ty Jerome for a second-round draft pick. Did that $5 million mean everything in signing Kemba?
I mean,
mean,
it probably
come
helped.
on.
I don't think they would have been able to if they
had
didn't
to
do
have.
it.
What, you don't think they would have been able to do Kemba, yet they were able to bring in Cantor for 11.
I hate that.
So that's why I don't know whether I understand. But $5 million doesn't
I miss
seem
Baines.
like.
I miss Baines. I wish
Well,
Baines was on the Celtics. I miss
he's
Baines.
also contributing to this
He
team
looks great.
immensely.
He
I
fits
mean,
in perfectly. And you say you don't miss DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton, I know
well,
that.
he looked better. He's trimmed down.
I know that the category
But I'm
for-
enjoying this team so much that I don't miss him.
Right. I know that one of the categories we haven't gotten to on the wheel yet was worst loss, and obviously that's to talk about a game. My asterisk worst loss was DeAndre Ayton, and I think that he was ready
injury.
to be on the precipice of an all-star year in his second season, because what we saw from him last year was a supremely efficient offensive low
He had more
post big.
bombs.
And what he translated to this year was he's increased his, again, it's just one game, and what we've seen through preseason, his defensive IQ looks to become leaped and bounds.
Agreed.
He's being much more patient. He's not taking risks. He's only jumping for blocks when it makes sense. And when he jumps for blocks, holy smokes, because he's got a 40-plus inch vertical. And I love his ability to talk and to track defensively, both things that he was doing too far in between in the previous season. I was so excited about what I saw in that game one, where I think he had just shy of 20 and 10, and he had around 5 blocks. He was really, really making an impact on the defensive end of the floor, and his intensity was matching the team intensity. I'm really, really sad. I hope that
I'm not sad.
I'm sad that he's not there. I want him to be a part of this.
He's my big disappointment. I mean, that's ridiculous that he goes out and tests for diuretics. You know what diuretics are for? They're the master steroids. They're to, either to contribute to weight loss, which he lost weight.
It's to mask everything. It could be to mask steroids. It could be mask marijuana. We don't know.
That's what it's used for. That's what it's used for.
We don't know.
Well, we know that's what it's used for.
We know it's used to mask.
It's no
things.
good.
Yes, it's bad.
And so it's a big disappointment, and
Yes.
they brought that on his team. I certainly can't be feeling that I'm missing DeAndre Ayton.
I miss DeAndre Ayton.
We
I wish
both-
he was
Oh,
in
for
the.
sure.
I love that
For
team right
Wish
now.
he wasn't such a bonehead.
I'm excited about that team too. Where were you feeling vindicated?
The Clippers. I mean, my pick out of the West was Clippers over Blazers. I think both of those teams are doing pretty well. Obviously, the Clippers did have the upsetting loss to the Suns, but overall, without Paul George,
But they failed defensively in that game.
yeah, they did. But besides
140.
that,
I just don't think that they were ready.
besides
They
that
punched them out.
game, because I think they played down a little bit to the
did.
competition a little bit, and then the Suns went on a crazy run. But besides that game, I think they're playing really, really well. Beverly is right. He said the other day that they're a scary defensive team. When they're all playing defensively the way that they can, they're just going to be a disaster for a lot of teams. And then they got a big two when Paul George gets back. They're going to have Kawhi and Paul George. They got a big two starting, and they got a big
got
two
two
off the bench.
dynamic duos.
Because they got Lou Williams and Montrez.
Has there ever been a better
Oh my
dynamic
God.
duo off the bench than
The
Lou
two
Williams
of them
and Montrez?
together
I'm
are
trying to think
incredible.
myself.
They're incredible.
They're
They
high
I
pick
can't
and
think
roll.
of another
And-
dynamic duo
And
off the bench like
Montrez
that.
had a breakout last year, but this year he seems to be even better and more quick off those high screen and rolls.
He might be a
They're
top
incredible.
5 roll man in the league. His efficiency
so
and his
good.
ability
Yep.
to know what decision to make at the right time, what angle to attack the hoop,
And that's-
when to wait to
and
the
to be
defender,
totally
how to
fine
feel
with
his-
that
the
role.
weight. Oh, he loves it.
There's
He eats it up.
certain games where he's going to go down to 12 minutes because Zubats is on a roll,
Right.
and they just like winning.
It's
That's
the
all
beauty
that
of that
matters.
team. And it's the beauty of that team, and it's the beauty of Kawhi.
Yes.
that team there
agree with
can
you.
just be a step forward from where they were last year. Everything stays the same, and Kawhi is such a complementary player.
Yep.
And every aspect of his game, he's a complementary player, as opposed to Kyrie Irving, who is not a complementary
No, I agree
player
with
to
you.
his players.
If they were
that
more-
team blends perfectly together, and Kyrie steps in there and blends right with them. It's awesome.
If they were more egotistical, and if Paul George was healthy, they would be trying to break the record of 73-9.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know about-
When you
I don't
see
know
them
about-
get beat by Phoenix.
Yeah, I still think
they
that-
gave up 140 points on the road.
I think their ceiling
There's room
and,
for
and their
improvement.
best basketball is going to come when they come to the postseason. I don't necessarily think that, even though what we've seen from them has been incredibly bright, they blew out the Warriors and they blew out the Lakers. And I think that, or they didn't blow out the Lakers, but they beat the Lakers handily after closing out a strong fourth quarter when it was a close game for 3 quarters. This team is very, very strong. But I do think, because when it comes down to it, there will be games that Kawhi rests. There'll be games that Paul George rests. There'll be games where their defensive intensity isn't as consistent it was as for the 4 previous games, and they lose to a team that's young and feisty like the Phoenix Suns. I do still continue to maintain that this team is going to be not a 1 or a 2 seed, but probably a 3 or a 4. And then when it comes to the playoffs, they're going to be able to patch together a run. When I initially projected my standings come playoff time, I had them at the 4 and the Lakers at the 5. And I think that that's a 7-game series. What I've seen from both these teams, in terms of obviously a very small sample size, is an increased confidence in the Clippers' ability to move past that team, and a decreased confidence level in the Lakers be able to move past that.
And I think load management is going to be far less than what the Raptors were doing with Kawhi.
Yeah, I think
it's
Kawhi's
already
playing
it
75.
already looks like Doc's got a plan to roll him out for 6 minutes in the first quarter, 6 minutes in the second quarter,
exactly
6
what it
minutes
is.
in the third, and then depending on game script in the fourth, he
exactly-
might play less minutes or he might play a little
The
bit
other
more.
thing
Exactly
that
what he's
Kawhi is saying himself, he's got 2 healthy knees and he's feeling really good. And last year he was coming off all those problems. This year he's healthy. He's really healthy.
I'm feeling
MVP
vindicated on
candidate.
the struggling Indiana Pacers. They've
Oh my
lost.
God!
They've lost.
That's why if I had another one to pick that I'm
They've-
a loser on.
They've lost to. Well,
Oh,
you're not a
boy.
loser in the way that you think that you're a loser.
Well-
the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Detroit Pistons
They got
are their
blown out by
are their 2
Cleveland.
losses. And although Brogdon statistically has been a bright spot and he's been producing in terms of just production overall, that they look clunky. And they look clunky on both ends of the floor.
Yeah.
And the Miles Turner-Sabonis pairing,
not
it's not working.
And it won't. It hasn't worked before, and it's not
Yeah,
working.
exactly. We've never seen this pairing work. They're being optimistic. I understand why they gave Sabonis the extension, because it retains him as a trade chip. It makes him less likely that you're going to have to pay up to retain him. And I understand they can't trade him for a while. But the reason that this still is something that can be looked upon optimistically is because their big free agent acquisition in Brogdon is playing well. And they still
He's playing more than well. He's
playing great.
He's averaging 27 and 11.
He's playing great. I agree. He's playing great, but again, it's to a fault, and it's against Reggie Jackson and Colin Sexton and Darius Garland. I don't know how much to glean from Brogdon's performance so far. He's been doing well from what he's been given, but
He's been good for a long time. So
right.
If they had a good defense, he'd be leading them to wins.
I'm excited of the potential that, because of this struggle in the start and because of the potential continued struggle, which is something I thought would happen without Victor Oladipo, because they don't understand how these pieces fit together yet. T.J. Warren, Edmund Summer, Jeremy Lamb, they don't know
The
what
whole
the
bench.
answer.
The
They don't
bench
know
is
what
not
the bench
doing
looks horrible.
anything.
Island of misfit
they don't
toys.
know what the answers are at the swing position. So what I think they could be hastily forced into is a move of Miles Turner, and I'm really, really, really hoping that's when the Celtics can jump in
I still
and
want
make a package.
Sabonis.
for
And,
that.
and one of the problems
He's
was,
not going to be available until next
December
summer.
15th.
No.
Yes, he's available. So they can trade him as of December 15th.
Sabonis,
One of the
a
problem-
rookie extension.
One of the problems they've got with him is that
months.
they're on the books at $3.8 million, and that's all they lose when they bring another player. But when a team takes him, they take the $18 million because of the contract situation.
Right.
But he's available on December 15th.
No, 6 months once you do the signing.
Okay, then what I'm
It's-
seeing
it's
is
like,
wrong,
yeah.
and you're usually right.
Who you got for who you're feeling right about, and then we'll spin.
Well, I gave you the Sun, so it was
Suns, all right,
Frank
yeah.
the Tank and Sun. You can
Okay.
spin it.
Yeah.
Frank the Tank.
Frank the Tank.
All right, the worst loss of the season, early season so far. I told you what it was. Mine was DeAndre Ayton. Who you guys got for your
Oh,
worst loss?
the worst loss for a player?
No,
Yeah.
I had creative freedom with my answer. I was obviously talking about games, but who you got for your game? Worst loss?
Well, I think certainly the Pacers to the Cavs was a horrible loss, but I think that the
Pacers to the Cavs, and Pacers lost to the Pistons
Pistons, but
without
the Cavs,
Blake Griffin.
But you also Golden State's lost to OKC where they were down by 40 points. in that
70
game.
to 37
That's a bad loss.
That's a bad loss.
I think
That's my worst. That's my
on
worst
the
loss.
surface, I thought that the Knicks loss to the Celtics was real bad
Mm-hmm.
because they would have had 13-2 in that game. The Celtics had lost the first game. It kind of looked like I'm sorry, they had won the second game. This was the third game, but it looked like they had control of that game. The Knicks. By the end of that game, the fans were revolting on them and were showering them with "We want Taco" and "We want Frank," and they were booing. You know where Dennis Smith Jr. is right now. He's on a personal leave for personal reasons. I think that game was crucial for the Knicks, and they needed that win so bad. And they
That
played
loss
so
wasn't
poorly.
unexpected, though. If I come into the game, if you told me that the Knicks lost by 23 after being up 10 in the first quarter, I would have been like, exactly.
No, I thought they fell apart.
Okay.
So my worst loss is the Bucks losing to the Heat, even though they didn't have Jimmy Butler. The Bucks offense just hasn't looked as fluid and as connected as it did last season. And I know it's only 2 games, but they've launched 103 three-pointers and only connected on 30 of them. And Giannis fouled out of the first 2 games.
Yes.
So it's not looking too good the first 2 games. Obviously, they're not going to look like this all season, but it's an ugly start.
Your worst loss is my best win. And before I get to the Miami Heat, who won that overtime game, very exciting game, the Milwaukee Bucks, I'm not necessarily nervous about them, but where you are absolutely right in terms of their offense not clicking in the manner it was in the previous season, I think that a lot of that responsibility falls on the shoulders of Brogdon not being there, and that new responsibility being Eric Bledsoe and George Hill and their inability to do it. We see Giannis trying to pick up the slack left behind Brogdon. His ability to create and play make for his teammates, he looks to have taken a step. I wouldn't be surprised if he averaged over 7-8 assists a game this year, which would be crazy. Maybe another 5% on that 60% belt that he says he's not yet complete on. But I think that this team doesn't have enough consistency outside of Giannis to be as dominant as they were last year. I do think that they are still a clear-cut top 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, and that's going to be at the helm and at the tail of another MVP-esque season performance from Giannis Antetokounmpo. But when we look at the performance of their bigs, whether it be the Lopez brothers, who I think both have underperformed so far, or Middleton, who even though he has around similar statistical output as he had last year, I think that he is struggling based off of how he performed. He's really carrying over his negative play from the USA tournament this season. I think that he's being inefficient. I think that he's second-guessing himself in terms of where he's shooting the ball offensively, and defensively, he's losing his assignment more and more frequently than he ever has before. I'm nervous about the surrounding pieces, and I'm very, very curious that I don't think that the Milwaukee Bucks need to be nervous about not being a home court team or something like that. But I'm excited and nervous at the same time to see that if this team falters a little bit more than expected, maybe come February, they're only the 4th seed. Do they make a move for a Chris Paul? Do they make a move for a Goran Dragic? Are they the team that goes and hunts an option at point guard, where previously you were thinking maybe they're kind of set and they're just hoping to roll with the same punches that they have so far?
They did get a good win on the road at Houston.
Yes, they did.
They came from pretty far back in that game.
Right, they're still
Budenholzer still seems like he's got control of that team as
Yes.
far as everything that's happening there. The pieces they fit in. I mean, Corver off the bench, and they don't look that. To me,
Ilyasovas
played very well.
They're still a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, for
absolutely.
Sure. That was just
do.
a bad
It's just
loss.
a bad
It was
loss.
a bad loss.
And I think that something to
a bad
absolutely
loss.
pay attention to out of these first couple games is Giannis's surprising knack to make dumb fouls. And I think there's probably something that's just a little silly.
He's so eager.
Maybe that's exactly it. Maybe it aligns with this point of emphasis fouls, but he makes frustration fouls, which isn't something that he really did a lot in the earlier stages of his career. So I'm very curious to see if that's just something, hey, I'm the MVP, where's my respect, blah, 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 blah.
He gets too excited.
Or what it is. I'm not
like
sure.
He stole the ball in transition and turned around and just plowed somebody over.
Right.
Like, why did he have to do that? He didn't have to do that. He could have taken 2 dribbles, backed him in, and scored.
So he fouled out. Did he foul out of another game as well?
Fouled out
I think
of both games.
I think he fell out of both.
He fouled out against the Rockets, and they still beat the
So,
Rockets.
to transition-
And the Rockets were up big on them too.
Yeah, I agree. To transition to the team that was your worst loss and was my best win that we touched on briefly before, Tyler Hero's team, the Miami Heat. This is one of my favorite teams to watch so far. Jimmy Butler hasn't made his appearance in the Miami Heat jersey yet because of his newborn kid.
We'll see him tomorrow.
He's going to be playing tomorrow night. But the way that this team works together Their rotation looks crisp. Everyone fights. Everyone is versatile. I love what I'm seeing from Justice Winslow. I think that last year he had some highlights,
he could be
but
a
I
ball
think that
handler.
he is this team's point guard. His
Unbelievable.
passing and his ability to
never saw
attack
that.
the rim and have vision when he's just surrounded by the trees is really, really surprising.
And he can't shoot. He cannot shoot.
No, he
that.
can't, and it doesn't matter. He's akin to the same play style that Giannis and that Ben Simmons is playing. He's playing that same brand of basketball, and it's very, very exciting.
Didn't see
and similar how we're discussing with the Phoenix Suns, how they have answers at every position. This team has answers at every position.
fun team.
Kelly Olynyk, he looks to be a perfect second or third big. The Milwaukee Bucks could not handle Kelly Olynyk. They couldn't guard Kelly Olynyk to save their lives. Derek Jones Jr. is a roll man in the second lineup, and he is a crazy explosive athlete that is attacking the rim with no regard for the rim's well-being. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Reckless abandon.
Yes, exactly.
Get your sunglasses out because the Heat and the Suns are
A
here.
raving banshee.
I'm loving what I'm seeing from every player on this roster, and I think that their best player, we haven't even talked about him yet, is Bam Adebayo. Bam has been awesome. He's been taken another step defensively. He defended Giannis incredibly well. He actually defended Eric Bledsoe a couple times in that game that they won. I think that he's taking a step towards all NBA defensive caliber talent, and I think what we're seeing on the offensive game in terms of how he's expanded his role is really, really exciting. He's not only a player that can be a fantastic lob threat and a really efficient big around the rim, he's a player that's distributing awesome, is grabbing boards off the defensive glass and is pushing the pace himself as a ball handler. He had 8 assists in this game, and none of them were a fluke. All of them were fantastic passes where he was finding his shooters, finding guys cutting to the rim when he got closed out on, or when he got doubled or triple teamed. His vision is surprisingly shocking, and it continues that string of Kentucky players that have more talent than they're showed coming out of the draft. I'm so excited
I like
about
him
Bam.
too. And what I'm seeing, and I haven't, like, you were on him and I was not. I was down on him. I'm seeing that, like, a trend a little bit towards that big physical body in there playing defensively. But just like you're seeing with Grant Williams, that they are actually matching up with size better than length. Power is matching up with size.
Yeah,
But he
hold your
has
ground.
both.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about
And
that.
I think we've talked a lot in the past about addition by subtraction, especially with Carmelo the past few years. Losing Hassan Whiteside was a very good thing for this team.
Please don't grab him,
because
folks.
he was
Really?
No,
he
yeah.
was just a tough club locker room presence for them, and he slowed down their offense.
I agree. Who is your best win?
I would say, and you're not going to like this one as much because it's kind of marginal, but I thought the Celtics win over the Raps was a big win for them too, because they really had played about 6 or 7 really bad. I didn't like how they played against Philadelphia. That game was the worst game I watched. And when you watch Philadelphia and Boston was a horrible game. There was like 70 fouls, 202 hours and 40 minutes played. I couldn't stand it. And so that I thought that win against where they came back and well, we're right on the Celtics. We can continue talking about them, where what they showed in that game is an ability to pull it together in the fourth quarter, and then they did it again against the Knicks. But that game, that was a good victory against Toronto because they were on the verge of losing their second game in a row. And the way Kemba was 4 for 13. Tatum was 4 for 18 in the third quarter. The starters were 12 for 43 sometime in the third quarter. That game was headed south, and then we saw it turn around, and we got a glimpse. And it was a nice time to get a glimpse. Not like last year where we got a glimpse and it was like, this time we saw it when the game was on the line and when they came together. And we also saw them, as we're now starting to talk about the Celtics, pull their 5 best players together and play their 5 best players. And we saw that their 6th best player is Grant Williams.
I agree with you. I think he is going to be the 6th best player.
We never saw the Celtics lose confidence in themselves and each other, and their defense created opportunities on the offensive side, and they just
Full court pressure.
They kept up that aggressive defensive tone, and it translated into great positive momentum. And Kemba just turned it on a little bit. And Jaylen Brown has just looked really good. He was the guy that we talked about the most, I think, out of all the Celtics players prior to the season. And he's really looked good. He's opened up a lot of opportunities offensively for them and defensively.
I don't know whether you guys
he's
agree
just
or not,
everything that we thought he was.
To me, what Brad promised before the season is he said, But what we owe our fans is what Sloan's called for before, is a team that's fun to watch.
Yep.
I'm not finding them fun yet.
No?
No, I'm not. I mean, they've had more miserable quarters, more horrible shooting.
it's not fun to
I
see
know they
bricks.
pulled it together twice, and
But
they're
just like their shooting
Just like
hasn't been
Nikhil
there.
Alexander-Walker, though, they're not going to keep shooting
There's
like
so
this.
many of them, and I'm just not. I'm also not saying. I'm not seeing Brad ball yet.
No.
I'm seeing a team that I'm not seeing that ball pop. I'm not seeing that ball move the way I want to see it move. I'm not seeing that happen. I'm seeing it stick more than I want, and I'm seeing 5 other teams in that league that I'm watching that are enjoying more, including the Suns, including the Heat, including Toronto. I'm enjoying watching those games more than I've watched the Celtics so far.
I don't think that's
I've
crazy.
enjoyed watching them. Like, I've enjoyed watching Grant Williams
You
playing
couldn't have
a good
enjoyed
role.
the 76 game. That was a horrible
No,
game.
it was upsetting to watch
But it
because
was a miserable game.
because
I'm
the
talking about the
Sixers-
game was
yeah,
bad.
The Sixers played so poorly. There were a lot of fouls on both sides. The Sixers were turning the ball over right and left, and somehow we can't figure out how to win
couldn't make a
because
shot.
we could not shoot.
Couldn't make a shot.
It was Brick City.
I think that
it's not going to stay like
what
that.
we've seen from Tatum and Kemba so far is, although that they're producing in terms of statistics, their efficiency has been miserable, and they're getting shots that they more so Kemba than Tatum, because the resumes are much longer. Kemba makes these shots that hasn't been hitting so far, and besides a couple of flurries in the game against New York and a flurry in Toronto, Kemba's been very, very poor in terms of his shooting. And Tatum has been a consistent, I think he's only shooting 33% so far, and he's not been able to find the bottom of the net. What I do like, and we have a lot of positives that we can take from the Celtics team so far, is Tatum has had the right shot arsenal so far in terms of areas of the floor that you want him taking shots for. Gordon Hayward, offensively, I think he's been fantastic.
He's got his burst back.
I think defensively is a different story because I think he's been putrid defensively.
Yeah.
But on the offensive end of the floor, he's finding his spots, which is that area between 5 and 9 feet where he's patient. He gets there. He takes his time. Most often or not, it's going to be an up fake into a little jump shot. He's putting the defender on their heels, and he's taking whatever decision is given to him.
He's got that first step back, too.
And he's getting to the free throw line, which is something he wasn't doing at all last year. I'm really excited about Gordon Hayward.
I pointed out with Kemba, that's the same thing I pointed out with Hayward last year. What my eyes are seeing, and I think Kemba's going to adjust just fine to this, is that he needs to be looking shot first.
Right.
And he's got into he's always been that kind of a player anyways, that always looks for his shot. He's been looking pass first consistently in these early stages, and it's throwing his shot off because he's coming off the dribble and he's thinking, he's looking past, and then he's thinking shot. Well, he needs to be doing the same thing I said about Hayward. He needs to be looking shot. That's his game.
He's in a big market now, baby.
Right.
Step it up.
He's ready.
Both Tatum
He'll do it.
and Kemba outside. I've talked about Tatum's struggles in terms of efficiency, but a lot of that is coming in terms of him attacking the rim. He's not getting a lot of calls, and he's not necessarily leaning back on old habits that much. I like it in terms of what his shot chart is, but he has been very, very efficient from beyond the arc. I think he's making over 3 points, 3 3-pointers a game on over 7 attempts a game, over 40%. He's been strong from there. Kemba's shooting over 39 on big volume. What's an interesting thing to pay attention to moving forward to whether or not to trend is Marcus Smart is back below 30% from his three-point arc. He's shooting over 6 a game. That hurts. I think that hopefully he can get it back above 30%. But again, that's not what we're gaining from positives from Marcus Smart. To close out on Jaylen Brown and just the overall play of the bench in general, in addition to Jaylen, I think Jaylen's been the Celtics' best player if you don't talk about the Philadelphia game.
It's all right. It was foul trouble.
In those first two, the second and third game, he was absolutely this team's best game. I think he was their best defender. His ability to guard Pascal Siakam one possession, Fred VanVleet the next possession, Serge Ibaka the next possession, and he'd shut down each single one of those guys. His ability to impact the game in terms of a help side defender, his ability to help to completely lock out a guy off ball. He's been absolutely everything he's knocked up to be.
He's leading the team in rebounding.
Yes, I think right now he's one of the 5 best defenders I've seen so far this season. I've watched almost every single game. I think he's been incredible on the defensive end of the floor.
He's got all their highlights too.
He's not having lapses like he does have in previous years, where his issues defensively are awesome. Of just he loses focus and he'll lose a guy cutting back door. That hasn't happened to him yet. I love what I'm seeing from him. And then on the offensive end of the floor, he looks like he has the building blocks to be third in points per game, but a go-to scorer if you need him to be. He's scoring 17 points a game right now. That includes the 8 point per game flub, 8 point flub against where he had 5 fouls in the first 20 minutes of the game. But otherwise, he's been incredibly efficient. He's only shooting good shots, and he's attacking the rim with touch, finesse, and ability to see angles that he wasn't previously. I'm really, really excited for what I've seen from Jaylen Brown. I think he looks like an all-star right
All
now.
of his highlight plays against the Raptors were huge. They go down 7. He hits a huge three-pointer off a good feed from Robert Williams.
Right.
They're down by 3. He gets a huge dunk in transition fed from Tatum off of a turnover. He had a really good fall away in the lane over Lowry, who stood no chance defending him.
No.
He's just making really good decisions with the ball.
He's played really well in the clutch, too.
We got a real big hole at the
team goes
5,
with him.
and that's bothering me. I know that you're
Get
probably
Cantor out. Get Cantor out.
Well, he's injured
out
anyway.
I know. How much
It
better
doesn't
than
really-
this did the center rotation play?
Time Lord.
We're seeing that when there's
Time's
a big,
up.
when any of their 5s are in the game, their offensive flow is really bad.
Yes.
I'm not seeing anything good offense. The best flow is when they put Smart in there for the big and actually play Hayward and Tatum up front, or Grant Williams. And how much can we depend? Can we work with Grant Williams? How much can he?
I think
contribute?
we can depend on him. Hopefully,
Like
get way
6,
more
6,
Bo,
7.
more Grant.
Bring it on
Hopefully, no
time,
more
Lord.
Cantor. Thank you for joining us in my
that was
Wheelhouse.
fast.
That's all the time we have. Toodaloo. Go
See you
NBA
next week.
season.
Wow.